So some of you may be wondering why there hasn't been any videos on the Twin. And that's because the LRPs decided things were going way too smooth, so they decided to act up. I was running the thing one day. Literally, I got a gallon through the thing, and one of these engine bearings, the front engine bearing, decided I'm just gonna spray fuel all over the place, and it didn't run right, so I had to rebuild like half the engine. So I just got this one finished. I replaced front bearing, rear bearing, wrist pin, connecting rod, glow plug, and for giggles, the carb pinch bolt, because there's no O-rings on here, so it can leak pretty easily. So I upgraded it with one of these from Nova. See, it's got an O-ring on each side. They're pretty mint. They bolt right on, and they're like a really snug fit. So to rebuild this engine, got a whole slew of parts. Just got this other one ready to strip down, and it looks like this one's been starting too. That's the one back here was the one that was acting up, but you can see that one was starting. Now I know it's somewhat normal for these to leak oil out of the front bearing when they're rich, but you have to understand these were tuned. They've been tuned for a decent while now, about half a gallon, and they started leaking. To me, that's a bad bearing, so we'll get this one freshened up too. Look at all that. Bad. Now that the engine's apart, we get to decide what bearings we want to put into it. Now I've got a few options here, I'll show you. Now this engine having an oddball crank meant it had oddball bearings in it. So the front bearing is a standard 607 RS, but this rear bearing is funky. It's like 13 by 24, I think, something like that. So I had to shop around for bearings, so I got a few options. So our first contenders, I got this bearing set from RC Renew. So if you look at this bearing here on the back, oh, you might not be able to see. On the back of this bearing, it says EZO AY13 Japan. You can see on RCR's bearing, focus. On RCR bearings, it says the exact same thing for the rear. The front, we have just a single shielded 607 RS. This rear bearing is single shielded as well. It's got a beefy center race compared to the metal bearing. I really like that. It's single shielded, which I don't really like, but if you can see stamped on the bearing, it says Italy, so that's an Italian bearing. Italian stallion right there. So from Avid, look at this beauty. I like this already. So if you can see on the side of the bearing, gives dimensions, and it's a, come on, focus. It's a 607 2RS, or I should say 2RS because it's got a rubber shielding on both sides. So I'm really liking that. So I think we'll go with Avid's front bearings here. And this bearing here, or sorry, the rear bearing in the RCR kit is the same as what came out of here from the stamping on the bearing. So I don't know if I want to put those back in because they failed already. So I got another trick up my sleeve. Ho ho ho! Got two bearings from J&T Bearing Co. And, oh, you gotta love that. It came with a free koozie. Oh, you gotta love that. Oh, we're starting early today. Thanks, J&T Bearing Co. So if you're seeing what I'm seeing, this bearing looks beefier than the stock bearing. Doesn't say anything stamped on it about where it's made. It just has some form of gibberish on the side here. But hey, I don't know. I'm tempted to put this J&T bearing in the rear and this Abbott in the front. What do you guys think? The RC Renew bearings were $45 a set, so I got $90 worth of RC Renew bearings. Or I've got two Avid bearings. The front bearings were $5 a piece. These J&T Bearing Co's were $11 a piece. Plus, J&T Bearing Co. came with some stickies and a coolie to keep your brewskis warm. Cool, I should say. And I'll explain to you real quick why I'm not the biggest fan of single shielded bearings. So this is the front bearing that came out of the LRP .28. You can see here, if it'll focus, that bearing's all full of grease. The grease gets transferred inside the engine. Plus, if any dirt gets through this bearing, it's going right into your engine. So if you have a double shielded bearing, the dirt gets stuck on this other shield. Now you can argue the fact that, oh, if you don't take a shield off, the bearing won't get any oil. Well, it's a sealed bearing, it's got grease inside of it. It's gonna get lubricated. So that's just my facts.
A few moments later.
after replacing both front bearings, both rear bearings, rods, wrist pins, glow plugs, and for giggles and shits, we did upgraded carburetor pinch bolts. You think we went overkill, or do you think this was necessary? I think we went a little overkill, but I just wanted to protect my investment. Both those engines, all said and done, cost me about $600. So, rather not blow them up. I really could have just got away with just replacing the front bearings, but we kind of went overkill, as you can see here. It's kind of funny. One of you even said I replaced stuff too much. Maybe that's true.